You are a professional ERP consultant responsible for implementing the ERP system at your client sites. And you are currently working with your client. You already finished the analysis phase. You met with all the stakeholders at your client. You gathered and decided all their functional requirements. You documented them. And now you will start the design phase. Within the design phase, you will convert all those functional requirements into valuable and solid solution on the system. But before we dive deeply into the system, let's first have a look at your client requirements. Your client is a manufacturing company. They used to buy raw materials from internal and from local and foreign suppliers, and then those raw materials go through the manufacturing process until finally you produce the final product. In today's session, we will focus only on one business process, which is the procurement process. And currently, the business problem facing the client is that the company is always growing bigger, always expanding by time. Currently, they have about 3 branches, and when they need to purchase any item, they start the purchasing process with the purchase requisition. Okay, purchase requisition is internal document created by any employee to start the procurement process. Currently, they use the email to send the purchase requisition. And also, according to the internal company rules, these purchase requisitions should be approved by specific management layers, management levels in the company. Okay, and also currently they use the email to confirm the approval of these purchase requisition. And sometimes also according to the internal rules in the company, they need to send the request for quotations, okay, to more than one supplier. Okay. What they currently do is that they start the purchase process now by sending the purchase requisitions by email, and also all the approvals and the confirmations are done by email. And sometimes also they didn't issue or they didn't send the request for quotations to more than one supplier, but instead they directly send the purchase order to only one supplier, and so on, which leads actually to inconsistent purchasing process and also significant delay in the whole process. Okay, what they actually need, the business objective from implementing this process on the ERP. The company wants the full cycle end to end from the beginning until the last point. They want all the cycle to be on the system, creating the requisition, the approvals, and tracking and monitoring all the process should be done directly on the system. Okay, that's great. Let's also have a look at the detailed functional requirement. Requirement number one, any employee in any department in all the branches should be able to enter, to access the system and create the purchase requisition. Okay, that's great. Requirement number two, according to the internal company policy, the direct managers for the employees requesting or starting issuing the purchase requisition, the direct managers should approve the purchase requisition before starting the actual purchasing process. Okay, requirement number three, the accepted or the approved purchase requisition should automatically be transferred to the centralized procurement or purchasing department in the company. Requirement number four, according to the internal company policy also, any purchase requisition exceeding $5,000, the buyer or the procurement team should send requests for quotations to at least 3 suppliers. Okay, requirement number five, the purchase team or the buyers should be able to receive the quotations or the replies from their suppliers, and also they should be able to compare different criteria in the quotations in order to take the final decision. All these processes should be implemented on the system. Okay. Requirement number six, again according to the internal policy, any purchase orders, I mean the accepted purchase orders, okay? After we complete the purchase requisition and the request for quotation, and then we accepted one of the quotations or two or more than two, I don't know actually, okay? Anyway, the accepted purchase orders. Any purchase order exceeding $20,000 should require another extra approval from the direct purchasing manager. Requirement number 7. The warehouse employees, the warehouse staff should be able also to access the system. They need some functionality, some modules, okay, in the system so that they can enter the receiving of the items on the system and they can track the on hand and all the item transactions on the system. Requirement number 8. After we receive the items, okay, then the finance team will receive the vendor bill. The finance team also they need to exit the system and record the vendor invoices on the system and also complete the rest of the financial processing of this invoice on the system. Okay, great. Requirement number 9. The finance team also should be able to issue the payment for the vendor. Requirement number 10. Managers, different levels of the management in the company should always be able to track all the process starting from the first point, which is the purchase requisition, until finally we pay to our vendor. The managers should be able to track all of these process on the system by reports, by dashboards. They need to have close monitoring on all the steps in this process. Okay, these are all the functional requirements related to the procurement process. And actually, these requirements are very common and very normal. Okay, that's great. Let's now start working on the system and let's check now how we can implement all these requirements on Odoo ERP. The first step in our cycle is the purchase requisition. Okay, for the sake of this presentation, I created 2 users. Okay, one of them will be used at the employee creating or starting the transaction, and the second one will be used at the manager who is responsible for some approvals at some points. When we need some approvals for some transactions, we'll do the account for the manager to approve the transactions. Okay, then let's start now with the first step, which is the creation of the purchase requisition. And this is actually where some of the Odoo consultants will fail, because when you ask any of them, some of the Odoo consultants, I mean, that we need to create the purchase requisition, the first thing that they will think about is that they will go to the purchase application and try to find anything here for creating the purchase requisition. All they find here is the request for quotations and the purchase orders and nothing about the purchase requisition. So they thought that there is no place to create the purchase requisition in Odoo, and then they start to think about like some customizations or some workarounds to simulate or to replace the functionality of the purchase requisition. But the truth is, actually, Odoo has a separate module for all the internal requests used inside the company, and this module for this application is called the approvals application. In the approvals application, we can create any type of internal request. So we use this application to create our purchase requisition. Okay, the starting step of the procurement process will start from the approvals. Okay, let's start by opening this application. Once you open the application, the first page in this application will display here all the different types of internal requests created and configured in the system. Okay, we'll create another or new type of request here in the configuration in the approval categories. Okay, we'll create new category and we'll call this category purchase request. Okay, and also in the description here, do the same name, and then in the next point here, the create RFQs. In this option, we'll select this option, which means what? Which means that we need, as a result of approving this type of request, we need the system to automatically create requests for quotation, which is actually exactly what your client required from you. Okay. The client requirements were very clear in this point. They need, after approving the purchase request, all the approved requests to be automatically transferred to the centralized purchasing department, okay, in the form of request for quotation, where then, after this, the purchasing team in the purchasing department will further continue processing of this request for quotation as per the internal policy and their internal rules. Okay, that's great. So we need to check this checkbox. Next, the automated sequence. Also, I will check this one. And what actually this will make, this actually will give you the option to have like number sequence for any document created under this approval category, the purchase requisition that you'll create, okay, the system will automatically assign number sequence for these purchase requests, okay, and also we can here use in the prefix code like any 2 digits at the beginning of the number. For example, we can like something like this, purchase request, and then the number of the request itself. Okay, that's great. Then let's move to the lower part under the options tab. Here we have some configurations. Okay, we need to configure some specs for this document. Okay, like for example the document here, the first point, and we have 2 options, either required or optional. This means that if you want to force the user creating the purchase requisition to attach any document with the transaction, then you can configure this feature here as required. Okay, for this demonstration, I'll leave it as optional, so the user has the option either to attach any descriptions or any external documents, okay, with the purchase requisition or not. In the contact also, we can configure that the purchase request, this type of document, the user must enter the exact contact, the partner or anyone in the contact that they need to configure for this purchase requisition. Okay, for this demonstration also, I leave it. Okay, I leave it as none. We don't need to enter the contact. We don't need to enter the vendor in this tab. Okay. In the date also, we can enter the date for this purchase requisition. Okay, I'll change this to be optional. The user will have the option to enter the date or not, and also the period here. The user can select or specify the exact period within which this purchase requisition should be processed. Okay, I'll leave it also as optional. And next, these two items, the product and the quantity, by default they are required. And why is that? Because actually we told the system that we need the result of approving this type of request, that the system will automatically create RFQ, requests for quotations, and in this RFQ, okay, there must be a product and the quantity. That's why here in this type of document, the user must enter the exact product that they want to buy with the exact quantity that they want. Okay. And also for the amount here, we have the 3 options, either required, optional, or none. For this demonstration, I'll make it optional. The reference, or the user can enter any reference number for this purchase requisition. I'll leave it also optional. And finally, the location where the user wants to store the items at the end of the purchasing process when we receive the items from the supplier, where exactly we need to store these items. Okay, I leave it this as none. We don't care now about where we receive the items. Okay, on the right side here, the other part of the settings under the approvals. This is very important actually, okay, because if you recall, according to your client requirements, your client wants that all the purchase requisitions created by any user should be directly approved by the direct manager for these users. Okay, so actually in order to configure this in the system, we have 2 options, either to select this checkbox, employees manager, okay. Then according to this configuration, now the system will check the user now creating the purchase requisition, and in the HR, in the employee and the HR application, the system will find who is the direct manager for this employee, and then the system will automatically direct the approval of this purchase requisition to the direct manager. Okay, this is option number 1. For this demonstration, I'll use option number 2, where here in the user will name exactly the specified user that we want to approve all the document created under the purchase request. Okay, I'll select here this user. Great, that's great. And also we can add another approvals here practically on the ground if your client asks for different levels of approval or different managers to approve the purchase requisition. You can also select here the different accounts to approve this document. Okay, so I think now that is clear, but no, before we leave this, don't forget to check on this checkbox under the required here, which means that the approval from this manager, from this account, is required before we can save and leave this document. the purchase request. Okay, that's great. I think now you can understand that in this application, the approvals application in Odoo, you can create and you can configure any type of internal requests. For example, if the employees needs to have some request to request loans, for example, you can create loan request. If you want to any request for any permission, you can create any type of request internally inside this application, and you can configure some specs and specifications, I mean, related to this type of request, and also can configure the exact workflow and approval process that you want to be applied on this type of request. Okay, that's great. Let's save this approval category, and now we are ready to start the procurement process by the purchase requisition. That's great. Let's now log out of this user, okay, because this is the manager user. So I will log out from this user and log in again with the user one account. Okay. Okay, great. So now we'll start with the first step, which is the purchase requisition. Okay, here under the dashboard in the approval application, we'll find now that we have here yes, this one, the purchase request that we created now. Okay, we created this approval category, and now it's ready to be used at the purchase requisition by any employee in the organization. Let's now start by creating new requests. Okay, and here with the request owner, the user who is accessing the system now and creating the purchase requisition, and also here with the category purchase request, the submitted date. This date will be filled in automatically once we finish working with our purchase request and submit it for approval. Okay, and here with the date, and the date, if you remember, we configure this date as optional, so we can leave it blank, or we can enter here the date for this requisition. Okay, and also here in the period, we can leave it blank because also we configured it as optional. We can leave it blank, or we can specify here exactly, okay, the range or the period within which we need to configure this purchase requisition. Okay. And also here the reference, we can enter any reference number and the amount. These options, all of these options, we configure them in the approval category as optional, so we can leave them blank. Great. In the lower part here of this form, we'll start to enter the exact items that we want to buy. Okay, under the products tab here, this lookup will display all the items that we have created in the inventory application. I think that we have an item called wood frame, yes, this item. Okay, and the quantity that we want to buy is like 10. And if you noticed here, this vendor filled in automatically for us. And this is actually because when we created this item, if we check here the details of this item, under the purchase tab here, you'll find that we configure this item, the default vendor, only the the default vendor that will be used to buy this item is this vendor. And here also we can configure the quantity that we can buy and the unit price that will be used to buy items from this vendor. Okay, that's great. That's why here in the in this form, actually, when you selected this item, the system automatically filled in the vendor automatically from the configurations from the master data of the item. Okay, that's great. But of course, we can change this vendor when we start the procurement, the request for quotation step, I mean, because as per the company internal policy, they need sometimes, in some cases, to send 3 requests for quotations for at least 3 suppliers. Okay, we'll see how we'll do this actually in the rest of this. Okay, great. And also, I'll add another line here for like this one. Okay, seat caution. Again, the quantity is 10. And okay, the same vendor also configured for this item. Okay, that's great. That's enough. I think that's enough for our demonstration. And also here, the attached document, we can use this button to attach any more description or any like files containing images for the items and so on. Okay, anything that will help the purchase team to buy the correct items, I mean. Okay, that's great. Once we finished
working with the purchase requisition, entering all the items that we want, and also here in the description we can we can enter more description related to the exact requirements or the exact specifications that we want to buy with I mean that we want to make sure that they are there in the item that we buy. Okay, and also here in the approvers you'll find all the approvers required to approve this document. Okay, required. That's great. So now we are ready to submit this document. Here also in the purchase request in this document, we'll find that we have different stages. At the beginning, when we first created this requisition, the stage is to submit. And then when we submit this request, the stage will be changed to submitted and so on. Okay, let's now submit this document. That's great. Now the stage has been changed to submitted. And for me, the user number one, I can't do anything now. Okay, I have to wait until my direct manager approve this type of request. Okay, great. But here also in the my approvals, I'll find here in this tab all the requests that I created and the exact stage, which stage exactly that these requests are resides now. Okay, so for example, here is okay, here is the request that I created. Okay, great. And what's now also here the number sequence provided and assigned by the system as we configured it in the category, the 2 digits at first, then the number of this request. Okay, that's great. Let's now log out again from this user and log in with the manager user and see how we can approve this request. Okay, great. Okay, great. Now assume that me, the direct manager for this employee, I'll access now the approvals here. Okay, and then I find here that under the purchase request, there is one request created and waiting to be approved, waiting to review. Okay, I'll check this now. I'll find here that this requisition with this number created with this user, and I'll check now the details of this purchase requisition. Now I'll find here that all the data, actually all the details created or entered by the user, I can check them here. And once I'm satisfying with all of these details, I will either approve the request or maybe also I can reject or refuse the request. Okay. Okay. Suppose now also I can access, by the way, here in the dashboard, I can access all the requests that I need to approve here from this link here from the manager tab here. In this tab, I find here approvals to review. Okay, I find this one also. And also all approvals, I'll find here all the transactions with their status. For example, these transactions approved already or submitted and waiting to be approved, or either before submitting them, the transaction is not yet submitted, and so on. Okay. Okay, I'll access now the approvals. Okay, and now I will approve this request, and that's it. Now I'll log out again from this account and enter again with the user account. Here in the approvals now, in the my approvals here, when I check my requests, I'll find here that the purchase request number 1 now transferred from the submitted to the approved status. Okay, great. Okay, now I can now create, or the way by which Odoo will transfer all the accepted purchase requisitions to be displayed in the centralized purchasing department for further processing. The way that Odoo will do this is by creating here the RFQs. When I click or hit this button here, now Odoo created requests for quotations in the purchase application. Okay, that's great. And also you can check it from here, by the way, in this smart button, the purchase order. And please don't confuse yourself by purchase orders. Okay, if you click this button here, you will find the exact request for quotations created. Actually, they are created in the form of requests for quotations, not yet purchase orders. So don't confuse yourself here by this smart button. Actually, I don't know why Odoo is calling it purchase orders. They are still yet in the request for quotation step, not the purchase orders. Okay, that's great. Let's now leave the approvals application, and now we are ready now to complete the process from the purchase application.